Hello, welcome to my explanation of the training program Xert. This is something that I've been using for a while now, and I wanted to explain to my teammates and other people that might be interested in using this kind of program as a way of how you can improve your fitness, similar to what you might do at Training Peaks or with TrainerRoad and other programs like that. So let's just get right into it. You can see an estimated threshold power for me. This is not entirely accurate. It's not going to be accurate if you don't do threshold a test, FTP test, and I haven't done that for forever. But based on the riding that I've been doing, this is my estimated FTP for my group rides and races and such like that. Just so this is a quick introduction of this front screen. This over here is a really cool thing. It tells me what level of training stress I'm having. Am I overworked, or am I falling behind in my stress and my plan? So that's something that's a rough gauge of, are you getting burned out? Are you not working out enough? This gives me my estimated 3-minute power. That's because I've selected my athlete type as a pursuiter, so someone that's specializing in 3-minute power. If you ask if you ask Xert what you should select as your athlete type, it says you can select the thing that you're good at or the thing that you want to work on. So I may not be a pursuiter per se, but that's something that I would like to work on, which is something like 3-minute power. So if we go over here, we can see under account settings that you can choose what kind of athlete type you want to be. Do you want to be a power sprinter? Do you want to be a road sprinter, pursuiter, puncheur, and so forth? Breakaway specialist, TT specialist, rolleur, and so forth. You can choose what kind of athlete type you want to be. And that might relate to what kind of workouts it suggests that you pursue. So going back over here. Going again to, what kinds of rides and what kinds of workouts should I do? This has an adaptive training advisor, where if you have a target event, you can input the date of your event and it will start to plan your workouts based on getting ready for that event. In my case, you can see that I'm in maintenance mode. I don't have any particular target event that I'm working on. You can see over here that there's several kinds of workouts that it's suggesting that I could do today. And we'll get into the workouts in a little bit, but I'll click on those a little bit later. Up here, the stars, we see that I have 3 stars. So this relates to how much training I've had, sort of like your TSS over time. In this case, they use something called XSS. But if we click on here, you can see that my level of stars is 3 stars, which means I am in the competitive range and not the elite range. So something that Xert users often talk about is how many stars they've had, and they feel pride when they've gone up in stars. You can see here the stars are yellow, and so that correlates to being tired. It means that I'm not entirely fresh. So the color of the stars indicates, according to their algorithm, how fresh you are. This is kind of a cool feature that a lot of people really like, and this is breakthroughs in in um, um, in the Xert algorithm. And so we need to talk about the way that Xert measures your fitness. So let me just click on that. So this was just the ride I did yesterday, and this was a pretty intense group ride with several Cat 1s, Cat 2s, Cat 3s like myself on this ride, and so there are different kind of breakthroughs, and this goes to what a fitness signature is in Xert. So let's go down to the bottom here. Here we can see a current fitness signature for me, and it's related to 3 different things. That's my peak power, my high intensity energy, and my threshold power. So we already know a little bit about what threshold power is, like FTP. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up at some other place. Peak power, that's pretty self-explanatory as well. I don't know if it's like a 5-second peak power, 3-second, somewhere. I think it's actually like a sort of like a 5-second peak power. Like if you get an instantaneous power that's really high of 1 second, it's probably not going to change your peak power. However, if you get a sustained power, that is what determines what your peak power is. And mine has changed over time. Used to be higher than that. And it's also been lower than that. Earlier in the season, it was much lower. It started to creep up. So I was heavier like last year, 2 years ago. Now I've lost a lot of weight. I seem to have lost my peak power, and now it's gone back up. Here in the middle is something called high intensity energy. This is in kilojoules, and it represents a measure of how high you can go over threshold. So this is sort of like your money in the bank. The threshold is what you have in terms of just being able to go and hold. The high intensity energy is what you have in terms of being able to go above your threshold. And if you have, if you've studied other kinds of metrics, there's something called W prime, and that's your ability to sort of pour out the water, the energy that you have. Once you dig into that, you have to go below your threshold to put more water in the bucket, so to speak. So that's how much water you have in the bucket to pour out when you need to really dig down, when you need to sprint, when you need to catch on, and you're going up to 400 watts, 500 watts, 600, 1,000 watts. That's how much energy you have. So these three things are how Xert measures your fitness. And so in this case, we can look at this particular ride that I did, and this is a map of it, but that's not particularly pertinent to anything right now. But this, we can see, is the way that my power was outputted during my ride. This was a gas station here, so that's why there's no power there. And you can see here on the first half of the ride, if we look at this peak power here, this blue line at the top, this indicates the maximum power available to me. Yeah, so sorry, this peak power is a little deceptive. What we want to look at is down here where it says MPA. MPA stands for maximum power available, and this is a really important concept in Xert, which is that at any particular moment you have a certain amount of peak power that's available. So when I'm perfectly at rest, I have this 1248 watts that are available to me to put out there. As I get more tired, that number goes down. So if you are completely at the limit, like you've been going hardcore in a off the front solo, and you're just putting it all out on the line, you're not going to be able to sprint. You see these guys in the Tour de France that are approaching the finish line. They're about to be caught by the peloton. They can't go to a huge sprint. They have nothing left. Their maximum power available is much lower. So that indicates my maximum power that was available at this particular time. So if we look at this, we can see in the first half of the ride, it wasn't so bad. Right here, the race got a little bit, the group ride got a little bit hairy. And we can see that it got all strung out. And we can see that my maximum power available started to dip, but not very much. And a little digs here and there as we went to the gas station. We actually got kind of yelled at here to all stay together until later in the ride, and so it was pretty well controlled during this time. Here's the gas station, and then at a certain point it started to get a little bit hairy, as you can see. So I'll post up a link to video of the ride, and the video starts I don't know, somewhere right in here. And then you can see that my maximum power available went way down at various points in the ride. So I was off the front twice during this ride in breakaway attempts, and you can see this is the first breakaway attempt. I'm sure of it. I haven't confirmed it by detailed study of this, but no doubt that is the first breakaway attempt. And you can see that I really had to dig down. Now, when your power exceeds your maximum power available, or otherwise you break the model or the algorithm that the computer knows how much power you can put out above your FTP, given how much power you've put out so far into the ride. And when you do something like that, when you break the model changes, and Xert tells you that you had a breakthrough, a fitness signature breakthrough. And so a fitness signature breakthrough did occur for me during this ride. So this was the first breakaway right in here. This was the second breakaway attempt right here. This is that failed, and I caught back on, recovered, so my maximum power available increased to nearly my maximum, but not quite. And this was the final sprint going into there. And so we just highlight this portion right here, so we can see this is the sprint. Right before the sprint. So I am being led out by a teammate. There's one wheel in front of me. And this is where I go. So my power here, the red line, goes up. My maximum power available goes down. if I click on this, just to highlight this, you can see that my power, my maximum power available and the power that I outputted coincided here. So this is basically a maximum effort that I'm doing right here. And actually that red line goes above the blue line, and so that means I had a breakthrough effort, and that's what this green diamond indicates. So that's an example of being able to look at your ride and see graphically what was going on, and determine when you actually had something happen in a ride, whether it's on the trainer or whether it's in a race, whether it's a group ride, that indicates that you've had a breakthrough in your fitness ability. Okay, so that's a pretty cool thing. Now we've talked a little bit about this maximum power available. What if you could look at that graphic on your Garmin while you were riding, and you could use that to help meter your efforts to know how far you've dug down and what's left in the tank? That's one of the things that's really cool about Xert, is that you can actually have a field on your Garmin that tells you what your maximum available power is. So let's talk about that for a moment. So if you have a Garmin, and there are only certain Garmins that allow this, that have the Connect IQ apps that you can put onto your Garmin. The 520 is one of them. I think the 1000 is another, and you'll have to look up which ones actually allow this, but like the Garmin 500 does not. So I did a search on Xert in the Connect IQ store, so you can Google that, and there are a number of Xert apps that you can put onto your Garmin. So one of them here is the maximum power available field. That's a really important one. I won't go to each one of these for sake of brevity, but there are a number of ones that you can put on your Garmin. This one, I think, does not require a subscription to Xert, and that's the What's My FTP. And so that will calculate, according to their algorithm, what your FTP or threshold is. And I think that's a really powerful feature, even if you don't pay for Xert. Here is a really important one, which is the Xert workout player. So, you may have a smart trainer. I know that I do. I have a Wahoo Kicker, the second generation, and I have a Garmin 520, and so I have the Xert workout player. And what that allows me to do is actually use Xert's trainer rides, or interval workouts, and have my Garmin control my my smart trainer. And yeah, and there's a special display screen that comes up, when you're running the thing on your Garmin, and it tells you where you are in terms of your MPA and your power and your heart rate and everything else, and how much more time you have left on that particular interval, and all sorts of things like that. I can't get into every aspect of the workout player in this video for sake of brevity, but in a future video I may show what that looks like. So this is really cool. For example, I've actually done this where I was outside with a dumb trainer. When I say outside, I was literally outside, and just used my 520 and my phone to do a structured workout outside, far away from any electricity or anything like that. So that's an example of the coolness of having this on your Garmin. Now, you don't have to have this to do the workouts, the Xert workouts, but this is one way to achieve it. Anyway, going back to these other apps, you can just install these on your Garmin, and you can add these fields onto your display as you see fit. So for example, there's another field here, time to exhaustion, time to recovery. This can tell you how much time it's going to take for you to recover, to be able to have a certain amount of power available for a certain amount of time, and how much time you have left before you're exhausted. So those aren't really fields that I've tended to use, but just as an example of another powerful feature. Okay, let's go back here. So we've talked a little bit about fitness breakthroughs. We've talked about how Xert can help you plan your training, how it tells you how stressed out and everything you are. Let me go back to my fitness, and let me look at progression. So if I can go down. Okay, here we go. So I'm just went to progression here, and you can look down at your progression over time. So this particular one goes from April of 2015 to July 24th, and you can kind of see what progression I've had over time. So my training load, for example, is this gray line, and I can remove various things to sort of clean this up. Let me remove the purple at the bottom, and let's see if I can remove training load. Let's see, remove form. Okay, there we go. So this, for example, looks at just my threshold power over time from April of 2015 to July of 2018. You can see a general trend toward an increase. This isn't completely accurate because I very rarely do sort of FTP kinds of efforts, long sustained efforts of at least 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and so forth. Xert, for it to calculate your FTP, you don't have to do one of those efforts. But of course, if you don't do an all-out effort, it's not going to record your best ability. So this may, in some cases, if you don't do something like that, this may be potentially an underestimation, I think, of your FTP. Also, another feature of Xert is that your FTP will decline on the basis of its algorithm if you're not really working out hard, if you're not working out at all. It has a decay feature. And you can change that decay feature to something that's more aggressive or less aggressive. So when people complained that their fitness signature kept decreasing, even though they felt like they had the same level of fitness, but they just hadn't done those FTP efforts. So these gold things, this is like a silver effort. This is a gold effort, like indicating a fitness breakthrough, and so forth. So you can track your progression over time. Let's see. Let's get rid of threshold power. Just look at training load. So you can see that actually my training load in 2017 has been higher than it's been in 2018. I don't know if I'm, I don't know, that kind of makes me wonder. I don't feel like I've worked out less hard this year, but maybe I have. And so this is an indication, of a difference in training load over the years. All right, so why don't we go into the workout remote player? So actually, that's not what I want. We'll get to that in a second. Let's go to workout. So let's go back to the first screen, the training advisor, and look at the suggested workouts. All right, so this has got 4 different suggested workouts here. So you can see the length of time for each workout. In this case, they're kind of long, so they're more focused on endurance. So it says I'm a little bit tired. I don't need to have big sort of VO2 max efforts, that I could do more of an endurance ride. So let's see. Let me just click on this one. Let's see, smart, no time to grind. So I can look at view details. Threshold training doesn't have to be 20-minute intervals. Keeps things interesting with this varying sweet spot workout extended for greater XSS. Let me go to the workout designer. And so this is where you can see the design of the workout. And this red line here indicates the power that's required. And this is all based on your fitness signature. This isn't some cookie cutter kind of thing where everyone does the same workout, but it's all based on your signature. And you can see more specification of these steps. Now, one thing that's kind of different in some of these workouts, is this a smart workout? Just glancing at it, I didn't notice if it was or not. But yes, it is smart, so we see up here. So actually, if you are cheating on your workout, your interval will take longer if you are not going at the prescribed power. And so let's say you have to do 20 seconds at 450 watts, and you're only going 375 watts. Well, that interval will stretch out to beyond the intended original seconds. And so that's a way of making sure that your MPA, your maximum power available, for example, will decrease to the amount specified per the workout. And I can tell you that can be torture at times. But however, torture on the trainer leads to success in other arenas. So that's one of the things that I like about these trainer workouts. You can do a hard one, you can do an easy one, but I tell you, these workouts, the hard ones are very hard, and they will push you to the limit. Let's go to workouts. So maybe we don't want to do one of those endurance workouts. We want to do something different. Here's a list of all kinds of workouts here. And so, for example, maybe we don't have enough time to do a 2-hour endurance workout and we want to do a shorter workout. Well, I can look at and glance at, if I click duration here, I can see what kind of workouts are available that are of shorter duration. And so you can see that there are many different short workouts. Some of these are related to like getting a fitness signature. Some of these are openers, so they're shorter for that respect, and so forth. And so let's see about the star system. So this is how difficult the workout is. So you can see a recovery workout is 1 star. If I click on it the other way, these are extremely difficult tests. So let's see, what is difficult about some of these workouts? Let me see. So these hardness tests, I've never done one of the hardness tests, but these are to determine what kind of shape you're in. Let me click on hour of power. Type that in. Okay. So this would be a very difficult workout. Let's click on this. So I clicked on it, it selected it as my workout. Okay, I want to look at the workout, preview the workout. Here we go. So you start off with a little warm-up down here, and then you go into 140% and 90% of your FTP, of your threshold power. And so the time, okay, so if I get right next to here, you can see that I need to be at 263 watts for 105 seconds, and the higher power would be 409 watts for 15 seconds. And you just do this over and over and over and over again. And you can see that over time, and we're at 1 hour and 12 minutes over here, that your maximum power available is going to be dropping and dropping and dropping, and you're going to be fatiguing as you go through this workout. So this would be a very difficult workout. That's just an example of a tougher workout. There are many, many different kinds of workouts. How I typically do these workouts is I usually run them over Zwift. So I'm hooked up to Zwift and I'm hooked up to the Xert at the same time, meaning that Zwift is taking in my power numbers to propel me along the course, but what my smart trainer is actually doing is determined by Xert. And I could make another video showing how I do that and how I display that on my TV and so forth. So I get kind of bored if I'm just doing an interval workout without some other kind of distraction. Now I find that when I'm doing one of these really tough Xert workouts, I can't pay attention to anything on the screen, although I want to have something on the screen. I'm just completely in a place of darkness and misery, and my brain is only focused on surviving. And plenty of moments that have happened like that with Xert. What else? I think that's a lot of what I do with Xert. So I can't really emphasize how great these workouts are, how potentially difficult they are, how challenging they are, and how much they can improve your fitness. I would need to go through like a specific examples of different kinds of workouts in here, but trust me, these will blow your mind. These are really, really tough workouts. What else? So, how do you get your activities into Xert? So we'll click here on the left, and I just have it hooked up to Strava. So it automatically syncs up all my activities in Strava. and puts in all my activities. So if we go here to my activities, you can see that all my activities there, and I can look at all my activities here. So this was the last race that I did, and this was a crit. This was a crit, categories 1 through 3, and I was not in the breakaway, so just mainly sitting in the pack. I had a teammate in the breakaway, didn't have any responsibility to do a whole lot. Went to the front. There were a couple of preems. Didn't get a preem, but was near the front. This was a small race, small number of participants in this race anyway. You could see there were moments where it was on and faster, indicated by the jagged red lines in my power, and then finally the sprint. So as you can tell here, if we look at this blue line, maximum power available, I had become somewhat rested before the end. And I think this is like with the 1.5 laps to go, I was on the front pulling for, I don't know, about half a lap, but not too hard. And we get here to the very end, and this is my sprint. And you can see that I was about close to 1200 watts here, and then extending over time here, and actually achieved a breakthrough in my fitness signature here with my sprint. And so this was probably the first time I actually had a fitness, well, no, it's not true. I'll just say it was the first time I've had a power PR during a race. But it was nice to be able to say, oh yeah, I did and the sprint, by the way, was fairly successful. So I won the field sprint, but there was already a breakaway, so I got 5th place. So anyway, but that's an example of being able to look at one of your activities and kind of be able to judge what was going on. I've had times where I looked at the Xert file and I got dropped from the breakaway, and I looked and I saw that according to Xert, I should have had enough power to stay in the breakaway, and that's after the fact, but it gives me, I was a little disappointed in myself that maybe it had been mental and I had failed myself by not staying in. And having that graphic on the computer, you can start to judge what sort of score on your maximum power available on your Garmin is an indication of what you have in the bank to spend. So, for example, you might note that once you get below 700 watts on your maximum power available, that you have to be careful. You're in a dangerous, risky area in terms of being able to, you might get dropped or something like that. You won't be able to necessarily respond. So that could be a useful tool. And when you think about it, only having, say that your peak power is 1200 watts, only having 600 watts available, that's pretty fatigued. That means that's the maximum power you can produce at that moment. That's a fatigued state. So it's not nothing to have that lower maximum power available. Once you get close to your threshold power, you are gassed. You have 400 watts available, you are gassed. I find, what is the cost of this? It's $9.99 a month if you pay month to month. It's $100 if you pay for it for the year. And what do you get from that? You get tracking like Strava. You get better power analysis in some ways, like with this fitness signature, and you get to track breakthroughs in ways that you don't get to do with Strava. You get these workouts that are really, really awesome. And so you're getting some of these aspects of Training Peaks and TrainerRoad. Now, one of the problems here is that, most coaches, if you have a paid coach, are probably going to use Training Peaks, and there may be some exceptions to that. The person who introduced me to Xert is a local coach here. His name is Richard Wharton, and he runs a website called onlinebikecoach.com, and he does consulting where for a relatively small charge, he will guide you through getting set up in Xert. That's just an example of a coach who does use Xert in his training to coach his athletes. So there are areas of Xert that I won't go into right now where a coach could be linked in and be able to see all your workouts and provide advice and tell you what workouts to do. I think most people that are using Xert will be using it for themselves as sort of like a TrainerRoad sort of aspect of using it to guide what sorts of workouts they will do to help themselves get better fitness. And so this Xert program, even if you choose not to do any structured workouts on the trainer, it's still tracking fitness and suggesting the kinds of things that you can do to improve your fitness. So in summary, you can have apps on your Garmin guiding you on how to ride during your group rides, solo rides, and races. This will also give you structured workouts on the trainer and tell you what kinds of workouts to do based on your level of fatigue and your goals and when your target date is. It will also just tell you how you're performing in your individual rides and what you need to work on, and you can make some inferences from that. So I'm not a power user of this, but I hope this gives you a brief sort of introduction on what Xert is and how it can be used by kind of the casual user. So hopefully this has been useful for you, and if you like it, consider subscribing, and if you'd like to give me more, if you'd like more of these videos, please let me know in the comments, and I'd be happy to potentially do that in the future. Thank you.